So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This webinar is part of a monthly webinar series put on by the Northwest Wisconsin Business Services team. All of our webinars are held on the second Tuesday of every month at 11 a.m. For a full schedule of our upcoming webinars, you can check out our website, nwwib.com. Next month's webinar will be Engaging Local Youth to Develop Your Future Workforce. So to register for that, again, you can go to our website. All of our webinars are recorded and stored on the website as well, so any of our past webinars can be found there. So now for today's webinar, Wisconsin Supply Chain Marketplace, Connecting Wisconsin Buyers and Suppliers. We have Connie Loden and Yella Trask with us today to discuss how the Wisconsin Supply Chain Marketplace Directory provides companies with a convenient avenue to find Wisconsin suppliers in a simple-to-use system that delivers results and supplier solutions. Connie Loden is the Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation in Manitowoc County, and Yella Trask is the Business and Investment Attraction Director for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Thank you both for presenting today, and with that, I will pass it off to you two.
All right, thank you. Hi, again, I'm Connie Loden, and I am, though, Senior Project Manager at New North. I previously was with the Economic Development Corporation of Manitowoc County, but I've been with New North for about 3 years and working with the supply chain marketplace for most of that time. My slides aren't wanting to advance. Oh, there we go. So New North is an 18-county regional economic development organization in Wisconsin, comparable to other regional organizations across the state like Visions Northwest that you're in. We're 18 counties. We have 3 main areas of focus, and that would be talent development, business development, and regional brand development. About 3-4 years back, the Department of Defense provided a grant to the region in response to a downturn of their contracting on the defense contracts, particularly to Oshkosh Truck. With the result of that, they wanted to see the supply chain remain intact, even though they were not currently using those suppliers. So they were looking for some actions that would help the suppliers in that supply chain diversify into other markets so that they would stay strong during those ups and downs of defense contracting. And so our main objective in working with that funding and the grant was to diversify the customer base for those defense suppliers. So to do that, we looked at one of the initiatives that we had done previously, which was Wisconsin WindWorks. And Wisconsin WindWorks was an initiative that was started around the downturn in the economy in 2008. Wind was also picking up around that time or shortly before that, advancing pretty substantially with the requirements for wind energy and alternative energies in the energy mix. So as a result, we looked at our suppliers and manufacturers in Wisconsin, and particularly New North, and how they could tweak their process or their capabilities to also be able to make pieces and parts in the wind industry market. So a lot of those manufacturers make high volume parts and pieces, et cetera, and so just by adapting some of their manufacturing process, we were able to connect them into pieces and parts that they could provide for the wind industry. We took that group to market with the American Wind Association and was very successful in finding new markets for those suppliers as they were organized into a supply chain network for that particular industry sector. So we applied that particular concept to the defense industry And one of the first processes in that was to actually map out and identify all the defense contractors in the state. So we had quite a number of firms that are in defense contracting, as you can see here, really high concentration across the state with a very large economic impact. So you can see the importance of trying to find alternative markets for those firms when defense is not contracting very strongly. So one of the elements of mapping out the supply chain was also mapping out where are the high areas of concentration of suppliers that we have in the state, and are the trends going up and down in some of those supply area sectors. So if you see the green boxes, I'm going to just kind of go through the key here. The green boxes indicate that there is a higher concentration of that supplier type in the state of Wisconsin and in the New North region specifically. So we have a higher concentration than the national average in that particular supplier sector. Yellow is just a little bit above or right around equal to the national average, with the orange kind of salmon color being just below the national average, and the gray meaning that we have very little presence of that particular supplier sector in the state, or suppliers that are in that category in the state. You'll also see, and I'll show you a bigger picture of this map that's over here, but to explain the arrows that are in the map, the red arrows going down would indicate that there is a decline in the region in that particular supplier sector, and they're not being purchased as much. And a arrow going up means there's growth and opportunity in that particular supplier sector in the region. So this will show you that map in a higher level detail. So you can see those sectors that we don't have a very high concentration in or very little presence, and those that we have a very high concentration in, such as other engine equipment manufacturing, shipbuilding and repairing. And you can also see the trends that are going up in those manufacturing sectors, such as aircraft manufacturing, and those that are potentially going down or are staying even. So a straight line means they're relatively constant and haven't really gone up or down. And then on the other side, on the right-hand side, you'll see the outputs and where that defense contractors basically sell and also move supplier potential into those particular sectors. So what this kind of mapping does is it allows companies to see if they may be facing some downturns, if they may be facing some growth opportunities, and if they are one of the few in a particular sector, or if there's a high concentration and a high level of competition in a particular supplier sector. So it can give you some market reads for your particular product or for companies that you're working with. So looking at the diversification and strengthening that supply chain, we looked at what the types of suppliers were in that supply chain map for defense and looked at where we could cross them over into new industry sectors. And part of that is really organizing them around certain industry sectors based on certain categories of manufacturing. Many cross over across different industry sectors, so the categories remain constant, so a company can potentially, at this point in time, they might be serving defense, but they can still tweak what they're doing slightly, or just through new molds, a new contract, work into some of the other industry sectors as well. And so we wanted to build a platform that could market companies across different industry sectors, but only require them to enter their information one time and highlight their capabilities and unique skill sets in one company profile that could then be included into multiple industry sector directories such as you see here. So you'll see benefits for the suppliers, benefits for the buyers, easy for them to find suppliers through dynamic searches, keywords, categories, number of different ways you can search. And suppliers, again, have that opportunity to put one profile in and be included in a number of different markets. And I'm going to show you a little walk around the website for you to see what that looks like in real life. Okay, now if I can get the right one to show. There we go. And so the supply chain marketplace landing page looks like this. And you can see fairly easy to navigate, navigational buttons at the top. You can view directory, create a supplier profile. It has a buyer section, a bulletin board, and a supplier section. So taking a look at viewing the directories, you can search by industry sector of the various different industry sector directories that we have included, including Foxconn as the new big project on the scene. You can search by region in the state. If you're looking for suppliers that are just close to you, you could search by the different regions in the state. And we'll also take a look at where we have some industry sector maps, like I mentioned or showed you as it related to the defense industry. We have those for other industries. And there's an advanced supplier search. So if you're not interested in searching by a specific sector, you can hit advanced supplier search and it will search across the entire directory. This is what the search box will look like. As I said, you can search very dynamically by keyword, the type of directory, by the region of the state, company name, category of manufacturer that it might be, location, including within so many miles. If you're looking for a defense supplier and somebody who's already qualified, if it's a company that exports, the type of ownership, as some contracts require minority or women-owned businesses, or in a hub zone, the small to medium-sized business preferences. And you can search by certification if it's important what type of certification a company has and qualifications within that. Or tier of manufacturer is also searchable by that. So this map will show you the concentration of suppliers we have across the state that are currently in the directory. And you can also search by categories or just look via categories, and there are drop-down menus that show the company profiles that are included within each type of category. So wide variety of ways that you can search for the company that you're looking for. A company profile looks like this. Their logo, social media outlets they might have, location, it's plotted where they are located. They can load a video if they would like. The directories they've chosen to be part of or industries they feel they can serve, and the type of manufacturer or supplier that this particular business might be. And then across the bottom you can see the contact information, details and descriptions of the company, information on exporting, and again the type of work that they're looking for is noted in that particular area. A company can list news that they have, and if they're hiring as well, that's an option for them to post those positions. The supply chain maps and trends are also included for those that we have already mapped out. You can see a number of different industry sectors and prominent ones in the state that have been mapped. And I'll get into a little bit of other background research that we do as part of that. mapping, looking for go-to-market opportunities. Again, the buyers section where a buyer can post a request for proposal, and if they post a request for proposal, it does an outreach and emails all of the companies in the directory that fall within that particular category of supplier that they are looking for. They can view the bulletin board, they can become a supplier and fill out their own profile, which we highly encourage, as well as, again, searching the directory. The suppliers page basically goes over the type of functions they would be looking to do, such as creating a profile. Again, the bulletin board has a number of good information posts on that, request for proposal looks, and searching the directory. The bulletin board included on the marketplace gives people information on updates that are happening across the state. We do try to get information from our partners that we include in that. Anybody can post on here, although we do have to approve that before it goes live to make sure we're not getting spammed by information. But you can certainly post if you have a pertinent article or event that's coming up that it would be valuable for those that were in the marketplace to see. The request for proposals can be viewed on the bulletin board page, as well as you can also view those on a page that includes all of the RFPs that are currently live. In case we have more than fit here, seeing the page where all of them are displayed gives you the full list. You can post a request for proposal. Again, we approve those before they get emailed out, just to make sure that we don't get spammed. And who's hiring flows from the individual business profiles on who has posted positions in their profile, as well as the business news rotates into this section from companies' profile pages as well. Or you can hit all the news or all the positions, and you'll get them on a full list on a separate page to view them all. So that gives you a little bit of walkthrough on the marketplace itself. But I wanted to talk a little bit about also taking those supply chain networks and organized supply chains in specific sectors to market. And one of the initial ways we looked to do that was using our existing industry sectors that were within the state, the Water Council, Food and Beverage Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Aerospace Partners, the defense industry contracting, and some of the other sectors that are in the state. By linking with them and partnering with them, we had some automatic potential market segments and sectors to also encourage them using the particular industry sector-specific supplier directories. So working with those partners, we've done a number of presentations for them, and we share links back and forth, as well as information in our newsletters. One of our first major partnerships that looked at really doing some deeper dive into the research and working with that partner in that process was working with the Midwest Energy Research Consortium. We utilized roadmaps that they had done on where new opportunity was emerging in the energy, power, and control sector, and worked with them to identify what type of suppliers would be seen in those roadmaps and be prevalent in having new markets emerge as a result of these roadmaps. Did a fair amount of mapping in that regard and information to pull out what our supplier network looked like, and I'll get into that in a couple minutes. But we also hosted cluster meetups and speed networking events utilizing some major buyers in the state in that particular sector, such as Kohler Power, Gearbox Express, and they were definitely businesses that were a draw for suppliers to connect with. So it drew in suppliers, and we were also able to, particularly in the case of Kohler Power, they gave us an indication of specific supplier sectors or supplier types that they were looking for, and we targeted the invitation to those particular suppliers across the state that they could have an opportunity in talking with Kohler buyers. Those were very successful events, built to the maximum capacity, and customers or suppliers were very happy with other partners they could meet in the supplier network, as well as being able to talk to those buyers directly. We've also done some trade show promotion of this robust supplier network that we have in the state of Wisconsin, attending ProMat and Automate, Biofuels Expo, Distributed Energy Conference, and also PowerGen, which is one of the largest energy power and control sector trade show in the world. And we chose that by really doing that deep dive research into the supplier network we had in energy power and controls, and the roadmap opportunities on where sales were going to advance in those particular areas. We took the roadmaps and looked at where the aggregated cross-cutting categories were that kind of cut across multiple roadmaps, and identified the network of suppliers we had in those cross-cutting technologies, such as engineering services. We have a very strong number of companies in Wisconsin that serve that particular area and supplier sector, as well as some of the others that are highlighted in yellow here: plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical contractors, commercial and institutional building construction. And the total imported demand is what other states are purchasing from out of state, not out of country, but domestic goods that they're purchasing from out of state. So we looked at some of those that had the higher demands that they were purchasing out of state, which allows Wisconsin suppliers more of an opportunity to be able to sell given the distance. If they're having to buy from out of state, they're going to be interested in potentially considering Wisconsin more so. So then looking at those high supplier sectors that had a large demand, we also looked at where is the highest demand happening in the nation, and where are they purchasing the most from out of state. You can see New England area, California, and Texas are some of the larger markets, but it predominantly runs across most of the U.S. And that was one of the reasons we looked at going to PowerGen, was that it wasn't a very small concentrated area or a specific sector of suppliers necessarily. It was more of a broader concentration across many sectors, but all in the energy, power, and controls kind of type. Therefore, PowerGen seemed to be the best fit to attend and sell our Wisconsin suppliers to. We had over 50 companies that were part of that network of Wisconsin suppliers at PowerGen, so we really did have a very strong presence at the show and received about 70 to 80 leads out of the show directly at our particular booth, as well as then funneling customers across to all of the suppliers that were present at the show. So the supply chain marketplace is, now has 1,500 suppliers that have populated profiles in the directory. You can see the various targeted industry market directories and the number of companies that are in each of those. And then you can also see the types of different suppliers that are part of the directory as well, and what that mix tends to be. We also do a bi-monthly supply chain newsletter promoting a number of our partners' events and training opportunities. If there's market opportunities, we share information on requests for proposals, even though the posted ones on the marketplace will automatically notify those that are fitting the specific category. We also include them in the newsletter just in case you miss somebody or there's someone else who knows of another partner that they can match up with, etc. And then we also promote using the supply chain marketplace to keep the activity strong on the site, so that the more use it gets, the more people are going to want to use it. So that's part of the effort for continuing to expand it, is one, expanding it statewide. The other regionals in the state were also interested in participating in the marketplace, and through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and the regionals helping to fund that expansion, we've been able to do that. We're encouraging the request for proposals and using that tool, as companies are very appreciative of being able to be notified within their inbox that there might be opportunities for them. Tracking transactions is an ongoing process, and then also doing more of the industry go-to-market opportunities, such as we did with Midwest Energy Research Consortium. And now I'll turn it over to Yella to talk about the big project that's on the forefront for Wisconsin that means a lot of opportunity for our Wisconsin suppliers across the state.
Thank you, Connie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Connie, yeah, okay, great. So Connie's going to help move the slides along, so bear with me here. So to the handoff and segue to Foxconn, we immediately kind of looked to the supply chain marketplace as an opportunity to find a way to, as we're getting inquiries on how to get connected to Foxconn, we felt that the supply chain market would be a great platform for suppliers to enter their profile information, provide some of the detail that Connie walked through. And really what we're working on right now is on the kind of other piece of this equation, which is, what does Foxconn need? What are they looking for? But I'll speak to that in a bit here. But this slide in particular highlights the outreach we just completed about a week ago to kick off the construction phase. So what I like to say is that, we need to build the facility before we could really even be, talking about supply. But we are starting to look at parallel processing, getting construction going. We conducted 13 statewide information sessions. The first bid package was released and has already been announced as far as the companies in Wisconsin that were awarded the excavation work. So maybe some of you on the call attended some of those information sessions, but we're already looking at what's the next bid package, and that is managed by M&W Gilbane. They are the professional team that has been identified by Foxconn, and they're managing all the construction activity. So the goal there was to engage with contractors and subcontractors and get them looped in all across the state to participate in the construction opportunity. Connie, you can switch over. So to the Foxconn Supplier Directory specifically, and then I'll highlight some of the links that are going to be really important to stay engaged with the project. So as I'd indicated, we are asking any calls I'm getting, and I get a lot of calls a day, to any calls that our partners are getting. We are sending suppliers to fill out their profile on the supply chain marketplace. This particular visual shows that suppliers are all over the state, and what we're really needing to do at this point, and those discussions are well underway, is work with Foxconn and their operations team and supply chain team to provide us some visibility into what are they going to be looking to procure, when are they going to be procuring, and what type of volume and quantity are they looking to procure. And it's really going to be important that we understand their schedule and the sequencing so that we can take a look into our supply chain directory marketplace and be able to say, you know, do we have the depth and breadth of suppliers that we need to fill the specifications that they may have provided. And so at this point, all the information that we're looking for on the supply chain marketplace is information that is generally requested for any company that's filling out any information for any of the directories on the supply chain marketplace. What we need to do is overlay anything that we would be learning from Foxconn that is more specific to their needs. Thus being able to say, of the 200 suppliers that we might have in any one category, if we can get a bit more specific on what Foxconn is looking for, then we can determine of those 200, or they can determine of those 200 which ones meet their specifications and which ones would be qualified to actually respond to the RFP. So the good news is that they have communicated their intention to use the supply chain marketplace as the starting point, and what we need is to get more specificity from them as they plan out their schedule. So from a timing standpoint, next year or so, we're going to try to gather that information and start sharing it through the communication channels that we do have in place. Largely the focus right now is how to get the construction phase going and what that might look like as the facility, which will be both a manufacturing facility as well as an assembly facility. You know, when will that be up and running? So those dates are anywhere between a 3 to 4 year time frame, 2 to 3 year time frame, but they are starting some experimental and research and assembly to test things out. So as soon as we get more direction from them, what we also need to be thinking about is how to prepare our supply chain. Okay, next slide. So to stay engaged on all things Foxconn, we have a couple of avenues. So in addition to the Wisconsin Supply Chain Marketplace, we have a microsite that is dedicated to all things Foxconn. That is the wisconvalley.wi.gov, and that particular link, news, you can register for general news and project updates. There's a biweekly newsletter that goes out, and it's a roll-up of all infrastructure bid notifications and basically an update on all things Foxconn. Just this week alone, we issued our biweekly newsletter about a week ago, but there were bid notifications coming from our Department of Transportation as well as from the local Racine County as well as Village of Mount Pleasant, and we needed to issue special bulletins to provide information on how to engage with the public infrastructure bid. So as I mentioned, supply chain marketplace, and then another really important link, if you have any services that are related to construction, you will need to complete your information and fill out your information on the Foxconn Construction Gilbaneco.com website. And that puts you into the Gilbane portal so that you can be notified of any bid notifications that are related to the building construction of the project. It is important that you complete your information across all three of these channels, as they are for three distinct opportunities. We will, where appropriate, provide communication to alert you, but considering how huge the scale is of this opportunity, we want to make sure that there are specific ways for you to engage depending on what type of services you have to offer. Next slide. So we want to encourage companies to continue to sign up. Although the current focus is on construction, we do see the supply chain marketplace for future operational assembly manufacturing needs. And as I'd indicated, we are working with Foxconn. In fact, this afternoon I have a working session with them to start to think about how to run a pilot program with supply chain marketplace and how to scale it for future procurement needs. Next slide. So to that end, we are also needing to consider this broader readiness plan. So in the event that we are at which point we're going to have specificity within NICS codes and specific categories, we will certainly be sharing it. But in the meantime, we are getting direction from them on some basic requirements that they may have in order for a supplier to be ready to plug into their procurement process. And a lot of that is pointing in the direction of Industry 4.0. Lots of discussion already across the state with all of our partners, from our regional partners to WMEP, WMC, our new manufacturing alliance. A lot of our partners are already thinking about, and a lot of companies are acting on, how to ensure that their operations have cybersecurity, automation. It's all really critical to improve productivity, optimize global competitiveness, and diversify markets. So this isn't just about what's the right thing to do to be Foxconn ready. This is about what's the right thing to do for our small, medium-sized manufacturers to be globally ready for Industry 4.0. So stay tuned. There's some resources listed there, but stay tuned as we are looking how to roll out an Industry 4.0 readiness plan across the state, and we will be communicating that as well. Again, not just so you're ready for Foxconn, but so you're ready for other opportunities as we continue to attract high-tech manufacturers to our state. Okay? And I think that is it for our webinar. Want to thank you all for joining us today, and I think we have a few minutes here to open it up to any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Connie and Yella, for joining us today. It's really valuable information, and we really appreciate it. Thank you both for joining us. And like I said before, this webinar has been recorded, and it will be posted on the website within 1 to 2 business days. So if you need to come back to this information or want to share it with anybody, feel free to do so. So, Connie, if you want to go ahead and hit that record button again.